of each group to be, for example, Blacks. They then rated on a 7-point scale of where they believed that group fell based on the photos shown. So we ran a partial correlational analysis to see if entitlement does predict dehumanization in marginalized groups. We reverse coded so that positive numbers represents higher perceptions of dehumanization towards these groups. And what we see is yes, entitlement does predict dehumanization of racial and ethnic minority groups, but interesting enough, also in whites. So this suggests that narcissistic entitlement is associated with seeing all groups as beneath oneself. So to summarize, results suggest that narcissistic entitlement is associated with dehumanizing both the majority and minority groups. However, narratives that often emerge from white nationalism have a common rhetoric of dehumanizing minority group members. So in order to test this directly, we need to include racial components that may influence whites' negative perceptions of minority groups. Thus, entitlement in a racial context may be relevant in understanding the relationship between dehumanization and toxic intergroup attitudes. So, to do that, we have study 2 in which we explore racial entitlement's relation to dehumanization in toxic intergroup attitudes. And to do so, to explore racial entitlements in a racial context, we particularly investigated identity-based entitlement, such as group entitlement that focuses on the identity and in-group versus out-groups feelings of deservedness, so what was previously discussed in the prior presentation on national nostalgia. Next, we have aggrieved entitlement, which examines an expectation that an individual has of their privilege associated with their identity, but believes that they have not received said privileges. So this is typically associated with gender violence, such as with incels. Also, we can see this with mass shooters as well. So this literature inspired our construct of racial entitlement, which we are defining as the belief that oneself or group is inherently deserving of privileges and special treatment because of their race. Now, we believe this form of entitlement can influence racially motivated attacks and opposition to racial change. So to reiterate, study 2 will answer the question and ask the question of, does dehumanization predict endorsement of race or white nationalism, I don't know what happened there, and support for extremist policies? And is this relationship driven in part by racial entitlement? So for this study in particular, we were able to recruit a total of 358 self-identified white Americans through Mechanical Turk. And for our racial entitlement scale, we created a 10-item